crap out of that whole town. I called the Massachusetts, New Hampshire Air Reserve and Air Guard. They all denied having any fighter pilots in the sky at that time. Later on, Massachusetts Air Guard retracted that statement and said that they did have fighter jets in the area at that time, and they inadvertently set off countermeasure flare. And how coincidental, because we never had those things over until up to 30 people witnessed this gigantic UFO. 30 people that didn't know each other all telling me the same story, and all of a sudden now these fighter jets come flying through and set off a countermeasure flare. Is that coincidence, man? I don't think so.
No, I think the odds are, happening accidentally, setting off the flare. No way. I think that they were responding. They were responding because, the 30 people, the first thing they're going to do is call the law enforcement. Law enforcement's then going to call up the nearest base and and ask, well, do you have anything going on? Next thing you know, the fighters are out there.
Absolutely.
Well, have you ever had the thought, though, that one of these times you might be abducted and never returned? I mean, look at all the missing people have gone missing all around the world. It astounds me how many people go missing where there's no trace of them.
Well, I've been looking into a lot of those cases too, and I've been doing some shows on that because I have a different angle, or at least a little bit more to put into that than what, David Pilates talks about, because I know his original focus was Bigfoot, but I know he tries to stay kind of open to everything. But just based on how these people go missing and the evidence that I've researched and I've seen, it just doesn't make sense that it's just some kind of land-based creature that's doing this. For instance, a lot of these missing 411 cases, these people are found in an open field where there's no trees or no cliffs or nothing, but yet their cause of death was a fall from a very, definitely from a high altitude, but yet they're in the middle of nowhere and nothing to have fallen from, but every bone in their body's broken and their body's squashed and whatnot. So, and if you die out in the woods, and it doesn't take long before a vulture or coyotes rip you apart and eat you alive, but these bodies are found without scratches, and they're fine. They're just dead, and they've been dead sometimes for weeks, but yet they're not eaten. They're not chewed on. It doesn't make sense. They're being taken somewhere and stored somewhere. So they're being taken up or they're being taken down, but they're definitely not dead for a few weeks in the forest. There's no way in the world that's happening. So I think it goes beyond some kind of land-based creature. It's way beyond that, I believe.
Well, again, too, a lot of people say that the aliens, right, the Greys, are warm, fuzzy creatures here to protect man. We don't know that. Yeah, we really don't know if these aliens are doing here. I do know that we'd be so naive not to realize that we're not being visited. I mean, look at our technology and look at other, races. Their technology must be so more advanced than what we are. They look at us as no more than an insect, probably. So, in some cases where they're studying you, they're going to naturally, they're going to abduct you, bring you back, maybe abduct you again. For maybe the rest of your life or a certain part of your life, they might implant you. But on the other people, where they abduct them and they realize, well, hey, this person maybe doesn't have what we're looking for. They don't even bother to return them. It's like, hey, here, like they used to do in Vietnam with the Viet Cong, push them out of the helicopter, door, just push them right out. That could be going on with, I hate to say it, with some of these people that are being abducted.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I believe, 100%. And I don't think it's just, some Bigfoot just killing people out there. And it doesn't make sense to me with the evidence. I mean, there was actually one report. I don't know if it came from the Missing 411, but it came from a documented report from somewhere I'll look it up, but there was a kid that went missing, and they found him melted into a chain link fence like wax. Like they found his body just like melted into this chain link fence. That doesn't make sense. I mean, how's a Bigfoot going to do that? So there's something else going on for sure.
Well, I don't know about Bigfoot. Like I told you before we went on the air, back in 2002, I had an encounter. But, without actually touching it or whatever, I can't even today say, well, maybe it was not a Bigfoot. Maybe it was something that was manifesting into my brain. It was a Bigfoot. The thing,
right.
The thing is, that maybe when they have abducted enough people, what are people deep down? What are their thoughts? What are they scared of? People have always been scared of bears. They've been scared of monsters or whatever. So, it's funny. Like I brought this up so many times on my show. I had a guy who was a game warden that claims that one day he was in his bed looking out his bedroom window, and his window, there was no neighbor, so he didn't have to worry about closing the curtain. All of a sudden, he sees these grays walking towards his bedroom, and next thing he knows, they're actually coming through the window and the wall. And then that's all he remembered. But all of a sudden, he wrote a book about owls, that every time he goes out in the woods, there's all these owls everywhere. And I don't think he even realized. I said, do you ever think maybe if these grays did come into your bedroom, you were abducted, maybe they did something in your mind since you were a game warden. Maybe you had an infatuation with owls and they scanned your brain. So now every time you're out in the woods, if you see a alien anywhere, or if they're watching you, you don't see them as an alien. You see them as an owl. Well, it could be the same way these people, because you know what? All these hunters have been going out for years and years trying to find Bigfoot. Okay, yes, they have sounds. They supposedly seen Bigfoot like I did, some people, but we still have no proof, no bones, no anything. The most they've gotten so far is a little bit of hair, a little bit of and footprints. I would think with all these people out looking for Bigfoot by now, they would have found some type of body parts, some skulls, some type of bones that it could have proved that a Bigfoot exists as a Bigfoot. I'm not convinced a Bigfoot is a Bigfoot. I'm sorry to the guys out there that are really into Bigfoot. I sometimes wonder if they manifest themselves as a Bigfoot to scare people away out of an area, which maybe might be a alien base. We don't know. I mean, we really don't know. We just assume everything, and that's the whole problem.
Yes, I can't even argue with that. I mean, it's either that or they're multiversal. I mean, there's no other way between the two others. I mean, because they can't be land-based and live here forever, because for all the points that you brought up. But say they are, bringing themselves forward as something that you're afraid of. I mean, think of now. I don't want to keep harping on the missing 411 because there's far more and more interesting things than 411 missing cases. But just to bring up a point, whereas one that David Paulides keeps talking about is that boy that gets taken into a cave, and his grandmother is in there, and he's afraid of his grandmother. His grandmother's mean, and she's telling him to poop on a piece of paper or something like that, and he doesn't want to. But so why was this thing showing up as his grandmother? He hated his grandmother in real life, and she, I think she was passed away, but he didn't like her. He was always afraid of her. He did not like his grandmother. So this thing manifested, whatever it was, manifested as his grandmother to get fear from him. And that's what I'm saying. Maybe these people, whatever's taking these people, are torturing them, because there's no signs of a lot of the times these people just have maybe a couple scrapes and a bruise. Sometimes they don't have a mark on them. They're just dead. And maybe they're being tortured to death for fear, because these entities that I've been dealing with that are affecting people, they get nothing out of it but torturing people through fear. They want to bring people to the fear frequency, and it empowers them. So maybe whatever's taking these people, too, are doing the same thing. Whatever these things are just taking them somewhere and just torturing them and bringing themselves forward, like you said. Your deepest, darkest fear, that's how I'm going to show up, and I'm going to feed off of whatever you give me. And I think this world's a lot darker and a lot deeper and a lot more mysterious than anyone can even comprehend.
Well, too, by doing that, too, they can understand how we think. Let's face it, I sometimes wonder, that, if we were invaded ever, I mean, how would the people handle it? I mean, seriously, if the government came down and said, hey, look, we've been visited by aliens. There's one species of aliens that wants to destroy us. How would the population handle it? I think most of them would be chaos right away. I think society as we know it would break down really fast. But I don't know what's going on. Boy, our time is almost up too. All I can say is there's a lot of strange things, encounters. And the one thing I can't understand, if they're implanting people, they've been doing it for a hell of a long time. I mean, even going back before Timothy Cullen, has been going on for years and years, people being abducted and feeling like they had implants or weird things happening. I remember one time when Art Bell, one of his shows, a lady claimed that she got pregnant, but she didn't have no boyfriend and she didn't have no sex, but she swore up and down that she was being abducted. So, I mean, it's a lot of things we just don't know. And that's the scary part.
Yes, yeah. There's a lot going on in this world that we don't know, and we just got to talk about it. And that's the problem. There's a lot of people don't talk about it, and it's starting to happen more and more. And so, thanks to guys like you, and you make it easy for people to talk about it. And this shows that people go on and they get criticized, and even by the host sometimes they get laughed at and kind of like. But there are things that people need to talk about and get off because they're happening. So I commend you in the way you do things. Anyways, I've been listening to a lot of your shows, and I tend not to listen to a lot of shows because I don't want to be corrupted by, in my work, I kind of like just try to do my own process. But I've been binging a lot of your shows, and I'll tell you, just real quick, you're fantastic. I really like the way you do your shows.
Well, thank you. When I used to be in commercial broadcasting, it was all about ratings. The book would come out, and the station, it was very critical for the station to be rated high, and the DJ or the talk show host, the listenership. Okay, that made job security. And I'll be honest with you, when I was in broadcasting, I was probably one of the worst of being mean to people. If somebody came up with a story, I would actually wait till they went so far, and I would take them in the rabbit hole and I'd tear them apart where they couldn't get out. When Art Bell came up to me on a phone conversation back the 17th of September 2017, because he knew I was retired, I'd come up and see him every summer on my motorcycle. He said, "You need to get back in radio." And I laughed at him and said, "No way am I going to get back in commercial radio." He said, "Go on the internet." And I tried doing a talk show on motorcycles because that's my passion. It didn't go over. And then he called up and said, "Well, have you learned your lesson?" And I said, "You know what? I'm going to try the paranormal like I used to do, but I'm going to not be the way I used to be. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be gentle. I want to interview people like they were sitting in my living room and we're talking across the coffee table and just having fun." And that's how I do my show. Some people don't like it. Some talk show hosts hate me because I do it this way. I don't care because I'm not going to tear people apart anymore. I'm too old for it.
Yeah. Well, I like your style. I mean, it's perfect, and it's very inviting. And like you said, like you want it to be like we're sitting down at the coffee table together and having a conversation. That's exactly like how I want interviews to be. And I've been listening to some of your shows today for the first time, like with Mary Joyce and Michael Hall, and there was more. And excuse me, I'm tired. I can't think of some of them, but they were all fantastic. It's just really, really good. So, like I said, I don't usually. I'm on a lot of shows, and I co-host on some other shows, and I have my own show that I'm just kicking off. But I'm going to be sure to be a regular listener of yours because it just sometimes you can have the worst guest, but if you have a great host, you can make that guest fantastic. But you just happen to have great guests, and you're a great host. So
well, thank you.
I'm going to be tuning in.
Well, great. Now, do you have a website or Facebook you can tell the listeners where they can find you?